The Leafs are making moves, making a few changes to their roster, sending down a couple of key players, as well as calling up Martin Jones today in light of Ilya Samsonov's absence. So we're going to break that down, as well as discuss how one of these key moves could potentially lead to a trade going forward. So stay tuned for that on this episode of Leafs Digest, as well as Sheldon Keefe. He calls out and speaks out about his team following the media pressing them for their lack of regulation wins. So stay tuned for all that. Before we do get into the video, quick reminder, hit subscribe button. We're very close to 5,000. We're less than 100 away. Scroll down, see if you're subscribed. About 80% of you guys who are watching right now are not. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and hit that button. It means the world to me as we approach that goal of 5,000. Thank you guys for your continued support, and let's get right into the video today. We have some interesting things to discuss. Not crazy, humongous news per se, but the Leafs are making moves. Now, if you're watching this before the game tonight, we have a few moves to go over, and the first one is a bit more minor, and the second one, where there's two players involved, is a little bit more questionable regarding a potential trade. But let's start with this one right here. So this happened a couple hours ago as of the time of recording. The Toronto Maple Leafs have recalled Martin Jones from the Toronto Marlies on an emergency basis. Ilya Samsonov will be unavailable today due to an illness. So 33-year-old Martin Jones gets the call today from the Marlies, and it's going to be interesting to see. He's obviously not going to play today as Joseph Woll gets the start, but this kind of leans in, and I just want to discuss this for a couple of minutes now, about how Joseph Woll has kind of solidified himself as the starting goaltender going forward, and the Leafs drafted this guy in Joseph Woll. They brought him up, and now I think they have an absolute stud of a goalie in Joseph Woll, and obviously Martin Jones is not going to make a big impact for the Maple Leafs going forward. 33 years old. He's not a prospect. Ilya Samsonov is hurt. It would be interesting to see how Martin Jones does compared to Ilya Samsonov because of Samsonov's struggles this season. He has not been very good whatsoever here. But according to this article from the Star, if you guys go ahead and read that if you want, but Joseph Woll looks to have the edge for the Leafs' #1 goaltending job. So it seems like Joseph Woll is running away with the goaltending job. When they've asked Sheldon Keefe about this, he's essentially said, we're going to go with whatever the hot hand is. Whatever player and goalie is playing better, we're going to rock with. And this is Joseph Woll's, I believe, third start now. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. I believe third start in a row. And he has been dominant, especially in the past couple games. Obviously, he's given up a few late goals leading to shootout, but we've gotten the wins anyway, albeit not in regulation. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Joseph Woll in the in the light of Ilya Samsonov's absence due to illness, and a quick reminder that they did call him Martin Jones, and I would be interested to see how Martin Jones does as a backup goalie going forward compared to Samsonov. He's had success in the past at the NHL level for several years, and Martin Jones, fairly high level goalie in the past, but now he's 33, and this is not as big of a move. This one is interesting, though. So this happened yesterday. The Leafs have assigned Bobby McMann and Maxime Lajoie to the minors. Now, this in a nutshell, there's a couple ways you could go about it. And Leafs Twitter was kind of going crazy, saying, please just make this mean a trade is coming, trade is coming, trade. And then there was the old Brian Windhorst memes saying, what does this mean? This is very suspicious. There's a couple ways you can go about it now. So, obviously, unfortunately for Bobby McMann, he has not been able to stay on the Maple Leafs roster. He hasn't been able to play well enough to, unfortunately, stay on the roster. And then Lajoie, who got called up as well, they're both now sent down to the minors. Now, if you're watching this video, go in the comment section and let me know what you think these moves mean. And are you a bit surprised that they sent these guys down given the potential roster crunch? Now, there's two ways you can think about it. They're opening up roster spots for a potential trade that is coming. We saw Nikita Zadorov get traded, and we've made a couple videos over the past few days about how their urgency right now to trade for a defenseman in the absence of Timothy Liljegren, Mark Giordano, all these guys is absolutely heightened. But do you think it's a trade that is coming? Obviously, this happened yesterday, and a trade has yet to happen. If it does, we'll be the first ones to break it for you on YouTube here. But I don't know. I don't know what to think. The other side of it you could think about is that they don't have, I believe they have 5 days or something, a lot of days off now in between their game tonight and then their next game. So maybe they just want to get these guys some reps in the minors, see how these injuries are starting to heal from other guys like Timothy Liljegren. He's obviously not going to come back anytime soon, but maybe it's just to give these guys some more reps in the minors while they have a lot of days off and their services aren't needed as much, because one of these guys was getting scratched anyway each game. Specifically McMahon, who hasn't been playing very well, unfortunately, this season, or at least hasn't been given a fully opportunity to play well. But it's just very, very interesting that they did end up assigning these guys yesterday. And do I think a trade is coming? Absolutely. I definitely do. I don't think it might not be because of those moves, but it's definitely possible if they're looking at the roster crunch and there are deep negotiations with the trade for maybe Chris Tanev is the guy who's on the Blue Jays or the Maple Leafs radar right now. But I don't know. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on that. I just had to throw that in there. A couple of interesting roster moves and a huge shout out to Joseph Wall for his continued stellar play. And I would like to see just how Martin Jones does behind between the pipes. I just was curious to see how good he could be. He's been okay in the AHL. But let me know what your thoughts are on all these roster moves. Nothing crazy, but could a trade be lurking for the Toronto Maple Leafs like we think with these roster moves of McMahon and Lajoie? Let me know in the comment section below. As we move on now to the second topic, which is a bit of an interesting one. The Leafs, it is no surprise that they absolutely have been not winning games in regulation. It's as simple as that. I believe they have 5 regulation wins out of their 12, and a lot of them, it's been a very strange season. Now, we're only 4 points behind the Boston Bruins, which is shocking to think about because of how grim and how disappointed most Leafs fans have been about this season. We've had tons of injuries. We've had Lillard obviously go down with injuries. The goaltending situation's been weird. Sheldon Keefe has been on been called out by fans, been on the hot seat in quotes. Who knows if he actually was. And then he was asked about he addressed the media after the Maple Leafs 4-3 shootout win against the Kraken, and now the record is 12-6-3, which is very solid, albeit 9 losses. But on giving up a 2-goal lead in the third period and whether the team is thinking about the forfeited leads too much. He goes on to say, quote, "There are 23 teams below us in the standings right now, and we haven't played our best hockey." It's a very interesting quote. I tend to agree with him. Obviously, the Leafs, we know again, they're 12-6-3. They're 4 points out of the Boston Bruins. 4 points behind the Boston Bruins in the standings. The Boston Bruins have been seen as a powerhouse. They had an unbelievable start to the year, winning a ton in a row to start, going undefeated. The question is, like you said, the Leafs have not been playing their best hockey whatsoever. Mitch Marner had a breakout game yesterday, or a couple days ago against the Kraken. He's starting to finally come into his own. Austin Matthews hasn't played nearly as good as he did to start the season, and he's been looking a bit not as good. William Nylander has been very, very solid. Our blue line has been very poor and very, very injured, aside from Morgan Rielly, who's had a very, very good season. The point is, the Leafs have not been very good whatsoever compared to their ceiling. This team has a Stanley Cup ceiling, and we're still 12-6-3, and that goes to show the level of top-end talent the Toronto Maple Leafs have. John Tavares, Matthew Knies has been very good as well. Mitch Marner, William Nylander, all of these guys, especially the third and fourth line, Nick Robertson, David Kemp, Noah Gregor, all those guys have stepped up a lot, and that third and fourth line helped for those few games where the first and second line was unfortunately underperforming. But that line, the top 2 lines are still fairly, underwhelming so far throughout the season. But that hasn't changed the fact that the Toronto Maple Leafs are 12-6-3. They're in a decent spot. If they can make a big splash and make a trade for a blue liner or 2, we're setting ourselves up very, very good for the playoffs and hopefully just for the rest of the season. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here now. That paired with Joseph Wall being as good as he has been so far this season. If we can lock in Joseph Wall as an absolute stud number 1 goalie, Samsonov would be a fine backup. We get the top 2 lines going. We get Mitch Marner going a bit more. Austin Matthews going. William Nylander going. The team is going to be very scary. That's where I agree with Sheldon Keefe. Obviously, it's been a pretty grim season. We're in 7th place right now overall. And I'm happy where we are. Obviously, there's a lot of things to improve. Brad Treliving needs to get in the phone. He needs to make moves. He needs to improve the blue line. Joseph Wall can only stand on his head for so long in front of a lackluster defense. But if he can do that, and then the offense can step it up, the Leafs will be in very, very good shape going forward. But let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on Sheldon Keefe's comments. I think he's right. Obviously, giving up these late game leads is not very ideal, especially going into the shootouts and back-to-back games. But with the blue line as broken up as the Leafs is right now and as injured, I will be happy with the 2 points win because at the end of the day, 2 points is 2 points. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on this video as well as the potential of a trade coming. And let me know what Sheldon Keefe, your thoughts are on Sheldon Keefe's thoughts. See you tomorrow. Cheers.